That's on him. I'll make that a little wider. All right. So just so everybody knows, this is His Majesty from the West. Wonderful man. We're going to have a lecture today. This is going to be pretty much a lecture, and he's going to tell you what this is going to be about. So
it's a lecture, but it's also meant to be interactive, right? So I'm going to ask questions or general questions. You have questions. If you have anything you want to clarify, just raise your hand and we can talk about it, because there's a lot of concepts in here that are different culturally, I would say. So what this stems from was when I was just, I think I started this right before I was knighted and finished it right after, which was in 2008, 2009. I wrote a book. And the book that I wrote was a summary of all the knowledge that was passed down to me by my fighting household. So I was Uther Squire. Uther was Jade Squire. Jade was James Grelham Squire. It's like 72 ridiculous Western crowns or something like that. And I'm not an athlete. I was never an athlete. I'm an intellectual. I've been raised by intellectuals my whole life. Everybody in my family goes to college, whatever. And I had to find a way to intellectualize and write down the concepts that we were being talked about aloud. Normally, when you're training with your knight or training with your household or your people, you just talk about stuff, and then you go out in the field, you do stuff, you talk about stuff and do stuff. And I just wasn't really sticking, and so I started just taking notes and writing stuff down and passing them back to what it is. So I came up with this. It's about a 50-page book. It's in the URL there if you want to read it. I just reread a bunch of it this week to catch up in this class. And, I will tell you that there's stuff in there that I'm certain people will disagree with, right? 2008, the early 2000s of West Kingdom was pretty hardcore, rough and tumble stuff, right? And so there's a lot of things here that you should probably, don't violate any of your cultural norms here when I talk about it. But I'm going to go ahead and I'll talk about the stuff that the way we used to do and why we don't do it so much anymore. So the way this class is organized is there's sort of 4 little sections. It goes counterclockwise from the upper left and then down and across and then up. I don't know why I printed that way, but I did. So the first part is like the 10-ish rules of fighting. So it's 10-ish because rule 0 almost doesn't even count. So rule 0, I think, is generally applicable no matter how varied or different you're fighting in that in SCA heavy combat, right? There's a lot of rules about calibration and how to hit people and this and that and the other thing. But the rule that matters is that you have to convince your opponent that they have been bested, one way or the other, right? Like sometimes that's just knocking their block off, right? Sometimes it's just stabbing the face. Sometimes you can just sort of be in a position where they know they have to know what's happening and they have to know why they've been defeated, and then they acknowledge your defeat. And that what comes down to the honor system that we have, right? That in order for me to acknowledge my defeat, I have to understand kind of what happened, more or less. And sometimes I understand with force, and sometimes I understand with vision, that kind of thing. So that's like the rule there. So what's rule 1 here is it's okay to win. Most people don't need that rule. Like most people like to win. But some people get in a situation where they're fighting people who like they're much better than them, or they get down on themselves. They're just like, I just do this like I'm out here doing stuff. But I was trained to like fight in a competitive way. And I think most of us were in that. And if you're, it's in another way of putting this is sometimes people talk about like, it's okay to want to be a peer, right? It's okay to want to be a knight. Like it is okay to optimize your fighting and attempt to defeat your opponents. It's not unchivalrous to do that. Number 2, it's never your opponent's turn. There are a couple of these are related to that, right? Like it's you can't just say I've done a thing and then you've done a thing, right? You are the even if you're say counterpunching in a fight, right? You're the one driving your engagement. You're driving your fight. So you don't. Part of the way to defeat people is to not let them do what they want, which means they don't get to do what they want, unless you want them to do what they think they want to do. More complicated. Rule 3. This is the rule that I was very bad at until pretty recently, which is don't stop until you're good. Like, don't stop. Just, you can always say sorry, right? You can always say sorry. Just, if you don't hear good and the person doesn't hit the ground, fight is not over. Lost, Finals of Crown that way, 2 years ago. Lost multiple tournaments that way where I'm just like, fight's over. They're like, not over. Right? I'm like, oh, fight's not over. So very important rule there. This one I think is pretty important for newer people, but not always newer people, is like nobody loves your armor like you do, right? There's a whole section in the book about equipment, right? Your equipment should work for you, right? It should fit you. It should not bind you. It should not cut you. It should not be too hot. You should be happy to put on your harness. You should adjust your harness such that it protects what it needs to protect. It doesn't get in your way. And you got to take care of it, right? You got to clean up your straps. You got to refit it. It's annoying. I hate maintaining my stuff. And if you hate maintaining your stuff, make it easy to maintain, right? Use plastic laces, like hide stuff. You can do what you need to do, but it's super important. Equipment's super important. Other than just armor, but like weapons, like understand how your weapons are constructed. Like you should be able to make a sword the same as the one before. Maybe not exactly the same, but you should have a plan, right? How long is my sword? How wide is my shield? How heavy is my shield? I ask people this all the time, like, oh, what's your shield weight? They're like, I don't know. Like, I mean, well, what if you made a new shield? Like, what are you going to hold it until it's the right weight? Like, you can weigh them. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Okay, this one's from Rule 5 from Jade. Works against everybody else. So the people, you get a move, you learn a trick move, right? And that move, you're just annihilating people like near your level, whatever. And then you go fight some super duke and you do your move and they're just like, I know that one, right? Like and what I use that rule and I try to train people is like, what the basics are what matter, right? Like I won Cornet like 15 years ago. I couldn't throw a wrap. I could barely throw an offside, right? All I did was like throw snaps. You don't need fancy. I mean, it's fun to do fancy stuff. It's great to have options against someone who's shutting down your primary thing. But like the basics are more important. If you train your basics and you train to do perfect fighting, right? To be perfect in your footwork, perfect in your strikes, then like it will work against everybody and fight everybody and fight the people who are the best. And you'll find out that the weird little trick moves that you do against, your friend to practice will work. Okay, this rule 6 is one that is probably should be stricken from edition 4 here, which is you choose your own level of pain. And so the way I was taught, I'm telling you, what I was taught is that if you hit somebody and they didn't like it, you just hit them harder. Hit them as hard. I hit for years and years. I still pretty much. I just hit people as hard as I can. And mostly that's not too hard. Sometimes it is now, but it took years for that point. And the reason that helped me a lot because I never got mad at anyone for not taking a shot because I just knew that was my best, right? Like if that's not good enough, I must not have done it right. Like I know I can beat people, right? So I would just hit people as hard as I could. And now people who were more physically adept would have a switch, right? Uther's sort of famous for this. Uther he used to be brutal, but then in his later years, he'd be sort of he would give you a really generous shot, like what we would call like a perfect 7. I think there's in our kingdom now, a perfect shot is now a 5, which messes some of us other people. Like, no, that a 7, 5, whatever, numbers. And he would give you a perfect 7. If you didn't take it, you got a 14. Next one. And you got a 14. This is actually what's really important here. You don't get to choose to take harder in your head or your thigh or where you're armored. Like you get a 14 in the arm. You get a 14 in the armpit. Like your calibration should be consistent. That's what that means. Shouldn't show up pain. This one everybody knows. Victory achieved in practice don't count. Don't be the king of practice. You know when I learned not to try to be king of practice? 2 years ago. 28 years I spent being the king of practice. 28 years. And the reason was because and part of it was my ego. I didn't like losing. And part of it was that I would I fought Uther twice a week for 10 years, right? Like I'm fighting for my life, right? So I was fighting to win every fight against him. And I was getting like deep in crowns and not quite finishing it. And I had a tournament where I fought, my squire brother, and he and I have a dynamic where he's a big dude. I came at range, I win. He gets in on me, he gets above me, big guy, I lose. I would lose 95% of the time. And that was how we were for years. And then after he beat me in a tournament because like he slipped and cracked me in the knee, like just we rotated, I couldn't get away from him. I went to practice next week and I just crawled into his armpit. I'm like, let's go. And I finally learned that like it's okay to go there and like put yourself in a bad situation. Like I spent years practicing the things I was good at, and I think that's very important to enhance what you're trying to do. But also like you're going to hit a point where your weakness is exploitable and you have to, like, I don't win inside very often, but I can do it now. Like I'm not afraid anymore.
Basically, be careful how comfortable you are.
Yeah.
Because you're not learning when you're comfortable.
Right, exactly. The winners want to stay perfect longer. I'm going to switch to this. Number 9 is my favorite that's from Jade. There's no mystical shit. Like, have you ever heard anyone tell you, like, when you're throwing a shot, you must feel it hit like an exploding husk of rice? It's just physics. Do physics. Rule 10, don't think in range. That's actually no for me. I always think in range. Think in range, you die. Think outside of range. And I found for myself personally is that the better I got, the more I thought, right? And so you really have to adjust that stuff. All right. I'm going to start moving on because I know I'm going to be way late. So, okay. So the next 2 sections are kind of like, I know you're all nerds in role-playing games, is like the stats of the fighter, right? And this is the part that I think I want to change the most because there's like actual gigantic holes in it that I'm going to ask questions about. So the 5 things this is I was taught from our household. These are the 5 things that matter in heavy fighting: speed, timing, range, targeting, power, right? So, and speed specifically is like raw speed. Right? Like just my hand from here, bang. Right? So that is great until people can block. And again, coming up in the West, late 90s, early 2000s, right? We're all fighting 24-inch strap shields. Speed, very important, right? Because the motions to block really large. Other case, so speed kills, right? If you, especially fighting like single sword or anything like that, like just being straight faster than someone matters. Timing is, I think, like the essence of my fight and the essence of a lot of good fighters is understanding to me what timing is understanding what's going to happen unconsciously and then doing it ahead of time, right? And to like understanding how the flow and the interactions of what people are doing and interrupting their own timing and hitting people while they think they are blocking or whatever. Like the simplest way I would do timing is what I try to do when I'm timing people is I just try to hit people when they're doing something. Because when people are not doing anything, when they're ready for you, they're very hard to hit. But when they are taking some intentional action, they can't change it on an instant. And so that's the core of timing. And there's a lot of other things going through it. I don't have time to go into it. So this one is the one that I think is underestimated and not correct. And that is what we used to call range. It was then probably 10 years later, we used to call it measure. People started reading fencing books, measure. So I'm going to ask, here's a question. So the ability to control distance is critically important. Probably the single most important part of fighting is being able to control distance. What's missing? I realized this like this week. what concept is not quite there? Distance. Anyone? No guesses? No, targeting's next one. No, timing? Is that timing? Timing's the previous one.
What the correct distance is.
No, that's actually what this one is. What I left out.
Distance isn't just how far you are away.
That's what it is. It's what I was going to call it is actually positioning, right? Like when you put it in terms of distance or range, it implies like a one-dimensional thing. Right. Fight is not one-dimensional at all, right? And it's not even like I think the reason why it gets sort of swept away or under the rug, unless you're Bronos knows this, you all know this, but is that the positioning is often super subtle, right? We don't get to. I mean, sometimes it's glorious. You get someone to step over there and you like hit them in the other back. Super fun. Like everyone loves that, right? But like it's like when I try to train people and like what positioning means is this is like Bronos does this, Helga does this. This is like just get your foot outside their foot, right? It's like a half an inch. That's all it is, right? And that all that is just changing the angle such that and this is a concept that's come later, is that what they do is harder than what you do. Because that's the sort of the fundamental thing that I'll get to later. Targeting. Targeting matters more the bigger your defenses are and the better people are blocking. What the rule for targeting I was taught is you should be able to put and this is actually from the east before I moved west, you should be able to put an 1 1/4 sword through a 1 inch gap. Right? Maybe not every time, but that's the level of targeting you should try for. Uther used to a 1 inch gap.
1 inch gap. Yeah.
Right? Oh no, that's weird. No. There is a drill that Horik. I've never done this drill, but they would do this drill where they would take two swords at 1 1/4 apart and move them up and down on the Pell. Well, 7 on Dresden. Why do you think you got good to hit those? Yeah, so that's Uther used to aim at rivets. I can't see rivets. Most people can't see rivets when they're fighting, but he would be like, I just aim at that 4th rivet over there. And that's a general concept from somebody who's like aim small, hit small. Aim small, hit small. Like at least look at something. On the other hand, Lucan can't see at all. He's like, I'm aiming at that 12th of you. So there are various ways to solve problems. And I think that the last one is power is whatever you're doing, you have to hit somebody hard enough for it to matter. And like one of the things that I think is really tricky this, and I actually had a lot of power troubles for years and years and years. Like I just couldn't hit people. I could hit people often and I could hit people hard, but I couldn't consistently hit people hard. And it just has to do with my body mechanics are whack. That's the only way I'll put it. Like I'm always throwing myself out of my own shots or whatever. And I don't have a lot of upper body strength or upper arm strength. But you can hit hard. But one of the things that I think gets left out when people talk about power is that if your mechanics are great, your power is great. But you know what doesn't always happen when you're fighting someone is your mechanics aren't perfect. Like you're like off the ground, jumping in the air, twisting around, something moves. And that's where like your fitness matters, right? Like a little bit of extra, just having the ability to push a shot through. And so, and it actually it's hard for me to discuss this with people because I talk to people who are small, right? I'm not a small person. I'm SCA medium, but I'm not a small person. And they're like, wow, I have trouble hitting people hard. I'm like, yeah, I know, I did too. And they're like, go screw yourself. What the hell? You weigh 200 pounds. I mean, I didn't always weigh 200 pounds. I mean, I weighed like 175 when I started, but still like, and I'm like, yeah, that's even rougher for you. You got to work even harder. You got to work even harder. And that's just how it is. We all have we all know what the advantage of being like tall and strong and fast and stuff is. It matters. You can overcome it. But it takes time. Okay, any questions about that stuff? Like, and I know I gave you the one that I know I left out. Is there anything else I left out? Like physically, what matters in fighting? Anything? There's no answer for this. All right, cool, we'll move on. So that was what I was taught. And then when I started writing these notes down 15 years ago, whatever it was, I realized that that's clearly not everything about fighting, even internally, right? There's obviously, not including like training equipment, stuff like that. But there's like what are the mental characteristics of people who are fighting and good at fighting? And this I actually was not taught. I actually worked this out for myself. And number one, this is the single most important thing for fighting well, for fighting at the level of the chivalry. And that is what I call heart, which is, it's just drive, perseverance, willpower. It's the mental state to keep going out there no matter what happens, right? No matter how bad you feel, no matter how depressed you are, right? Like, I used to get depressed when I was, my whole life, right? I get depressed. I'd be like, I don't want to go to practice. I'm depressed. I'm going to be terrible. And Uther would call me up. You're like, going to practice? I'm like, no, depressed. You're like, go to practice. Fight 3 fights. Just go, gotta get your stuff on, fight 3 fights going. You know how many times I went to practice and fought 3 fights? None. None. You get it? You put your I mean, that's what they say. Like, you're messed up. Like you get, just do stuff. And that's, I mean, not to get psychological, but like, my issue with depression, one of the things my experience with depression is that even though you don't want to do the things you want to do, you know you like doing, do them anyway. Something in there likes them still, and that you'll get out of it one day, hopefully.
Equally, you feel better at that.
Yeah. You're like, wow, I'm not such a schlub after all. Yeah. But that's absolutely been the one thing that I have always done more than all of my squire brethren and sisterin, like everyone, is that I just kept grinding, right? Like, you can overcome a ton of stuff if you just keep grinding. And in my experience, in order to, what helped me, I just had to really care. And again, goes back, like, I just really cared about being good at the sport, right? Very competitive person, right? And I didn't talk about this at the beginning. I often do this when I discuss at the beginning. None of you have any idea how bad I was fighting when I started out here at Pennsic 30 years ago. I was newbie fodder. I would have been practicing for a year. I'd go out there and they'd be like, oh, go fight Ben. And beat the crap out of me. I was awful. There are 3-4 people who still hang around the East Kingdom who remember when I was that bad. I was voted most improved fighter in 2 kingdoms. I improved in the East in the first 5 years, all the way to like bad. Like, hey, like that person might actually be trainable. Like after 4 years. And then I moved out to West 2002, joined up with Uther and Jade, and he's like, wow, you are really the most improved guy out here. 4 years later, I got knighted. So like, that's like, it worked. Like, but like, it's just, every day, just do it every day. Train something every day. Think about fighting every day. Like, well, this is actually from Thorfinn used to say that when I see someone with a white belt on, I know that some point in their life, they were obsessed with fighting. Right? You're just thinking about it at night. You fight in your sleep. No one can do that for 20 years, but like, you go through phases where you do it. Okay. The next 3 ones, I'm going to rush through this a little bit, are all linked, right? And they have to do with how you mentally process your sparring or your practice. And this was written before we did a ton of video review all the time. Now we do video review every week. It's super helpful. You're not like trying to remember what you did. You're not going like, why is my back curved like a C? Why am I leaning back? But you have the things that are linked together is the perception. Like, you have to fight with your eyes open. You have to understand when, what it means when people shift their positions, shift their hand, move their shield. What are they doing? And it's tricky because if you're actually swinging in range with someone, you can't really be thinking about that stuff. You have to kind of fade out, or you can do it against people who you're significantly better than at range, right? Where you're like, oh, there was one, I remember this clear as day. Like one day I'm at practice, Bart, the oldest practice, and fighting somebody, and we're just set up, and he moves his hand like that. I'm like, and he goes like that, and then he moves his hand back, and I move my hands there. Like, he was moving his hand like at half an inch, but I could tell when he does this, like he's gonna throw offside, right? And not although, and then I got fooled last year when someone was doing this. I'm like, you're gonna throw an offside. He's like, reverse edged me. I'm like, That's how you know that stuff fast. I never saw it coming, but anyway. So perception is there. Logic is once you've seen stuff and watched what's going on. I'm a very tactical person when it comes to fighting. Like when I am fighting someone that I fought before, I want to have a plan ahead of time. I want to know what they're good at. I want to know what they're bad at. I want to know what I am trying to do. In order to do that, you have to process the stuff you see. You have to process their video. You have to watch them fight. You like to sort of pick out. I mean, you're not always right, but you want to think about where their holes might be. What are they trying to do? Like memory just means like you got to remember what you're going on. I know there's some savants out there who remember every fight they've ever had, every fight they've ever lost. Yeah, I'm not like that. I remember some things, but not everything. But if you remember what if you don't remember stuff, here's a great example. It's super funny because it's a negative example. Duke Miles, who we raised up from a scrub till he was kicking my ass pretty badly. He has chronic back pain and smokes a ton of marijuana, like all the time. Like he's constantly stoned, and he would come to practice stoned every time, and he would get better and he'd fight, but he couldn't remember when anyone told him. He like literally couldn't, like he would just fight, he'd fight good, and then next week he would just be exactly where he was because he wasn't processing that stuff into his memory because he was stoned. And so Uther's kind of like just can't, you do whatever you want in your own time, just don't do it before practice. And then like 2 years later, he's like knighted, right? Like that's all it took for him to keep that stuff in. The last one is cool. It's the rule of cool. So
you attend the West Coast.
Yeah, but and this is like you want to be calm and collected when you're in a tournament fight, right? Sometimes there are some people who can like rage kill, but most people aren't like that, right? Most people you want to keep, you don't want to lose your temper. It pisses people off, right? You can hurt people. You can get, no one wants to fight someone who's out of control. So like and it is but it's actually a skill. Some people really don't have that ability. So you really have to be calm and collected, but still energized, right? And it's a tricky thing to do, and I think that's important.
I think it's a big one. And so that rule of cool is if you find yourself like in tension, or you get to that place where you're like outside of what you normally do, you need to go back to that cool place of controlling yourself, not letting all those other things control you.
Right.
This is a prime example. Somebody hits you. What's the first thing you want to do?
Hit him back.
Right? What happens usually when you're forcing yourself to hit somebody back? You get hit a bunch more times.
I actually have the great. This is a new story. This happened to me since I've thought this. So, I go out to this weird little baronial tournament in Sacramento, and I don't want to be the baronial champion, right? But it's a 10-person round robin. So I asked the champion, like, "Hey," and the champion holds the tournament. I'm like, "Can I just fight? I'll be like the end boss, whatever, blah blah blah." So, there's this woman she's now the captain of our guard, right? Big person fighting left-handed blocking stick, which is like the worst style ever. Like, so you're like this, right? The first time I fought her, I'm like, I think that style's not very good. I think you should get a shield.
It's a left-handed. You're saying they're fighting left-handed Madu, right?
Right, but with no points.
Okay, no, you're right.
With no points.
Subjectively, two-sword is the worst style.
Yeah, no. But two swords an actual style, and left-handed sticky stick is insanity. But the knight who was training her was fighting right-handed that way. There's a bunch of them fight that way, but the left-handed part's really weird against right-hander. And they're like, why? And I went and I fought her. I'm like, left arm, right arm, left arm. But they're like, well, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm like, okay. So I go to this tournament. She brings a shield. She has a shield there. I'm like, oh, wow. Will someone listen to me? How this never happens? And she goes out round run of the round robin, fights with a shield, loses. Second round, fights me. No shield.
Stick.
Brings out the stick.
Brings out the stick.
I'm like, Tegan, where's your shield? She stands up from across the field as loud and clear as day. I will never give you that satisfaction. So what did that do? Completely flipped my head. I'm like, oh, someone's getting punished now. So I go out there like, bub does something, go for arm. She goes, blam, cracks me in the side of the body. I'm like, well done. And I tell that story all the time. That was the only fight I lost all day. And like, she goes to final, like to semifinals or whatever with it. But I'm like, yeah. So don't, like, exactly what you're saying. Like, I want to hit that person's back. Like, it was the biggest psychological mind fuck I'd ever seen. Just totally. We're always friends forever. That was great. No one's ever. She still fights with it. She's better. Like, it kind of works. Turns out you actually have to pay attention to the left-handed sword. Like, you can't just start swinging there. Okay. All right. So after I wrote down all those notes and stuff, I realized I didn't actually and wrote this book down. It doesn't actually say anything about what fighting is. It's just a bunch of words and concepts and stuff that I learned and wrote down. But at least we wrote them down because guys I was with, they didn't write anything down. And so I started having more conversations. We started to put together, like, what is actually a fight? What do people look for, like, in Knights Council? Like, one of the things they like, is that person in control? Like, win, lose, whatever. But are they conscious? Are they controlling? Are they doing things that are correct? And I sort of made up this sort of separation of other concepts together. It's probably not complete at all, but it is one way of sort of breaking down what an individual pass is, or a set of passes, and what matters, and how they lead to control. And so the sort of frame, or like the chunk of what is in a fight is, we call it an engagement. So an engagement is something where you start out of range, something happens, people swing at each other, somebody wins, somebody loses, or you break away, right? That's an engagement. And so there's a concept that of building an engagement. And that goes back to what I said a lot earlier about it's not somebody else's turn, there's no shot clock. One of Bronos's great ones is that and this was really cool to found this in that boxing footwork video, which is that everything you do in an engagement should help you make it easy for your next thing to happen, right? Like, inversely, make it harder for the other person things to happen. But in general, when you are feinting, or when you are swinging, or when you are stepping, or when you are not stepping, right? It should have a purpose. And that purpose is very simple. It should make the next thing you do easier. And it's very hard to do this 100% of the time, especially when you talk about, like, resting or disengaging. Like, what do I really get out of this? Or, like, getting someone to throw a shot and block it or whatever. Like, yeah, I blocked a shot. Great. So what did I get? You can get, there's a lot of really small, like, zeros or 0.001s. Like, just because I saw you throw a snap at me, did I learn anything? I don't know. But you do have to want to, so the sort of, and again, no one intellectualizes this when they're fighting, right? But when you step back afterwards or watch it on video or talk about it, like, you do things for a reason. And I think that if you watch average fighters fight, you'll see most of the time, like, even people who are, like, winning Squire Sherman, stuff like that, they don't know, they're not really doing anything purposeful, right? They have a thing that they do, and they do it, and they get in there and they do their thing, and it either works or they don't, right? They're not necessarily, some of them, sometimes you can control a fight just by being faster and stronger, or smoother, or more intimidating. Like, you can win crowns this way, like, especially if you're left-handed, right? Like, just be good. Yeah. Just be good. But you're not really establishing the pattern of events that makes winning fights easier, right? You're just doing a thing that works sometimes. And that comes to this part that's not in this book. I think I wrote it down in a later essay or something like this, which I came up with pretty recently, which is that in every fight, there's a matador and there's a bull. And almost everybody has a preference of what they do, right? Like, I mean, everybody knows who the bulls are, right? Like, you know what they're going to do. They're going to come at you. They're going to get in on you, and they're going to smash you, right? And everyone knows, like, greatest matador in the game right here, Branos, right? Like, well, you're like, is that you're pulling them in. You want them to do a thing. Like, I'm absolutely matador as well. Like, I'm such a counterpuncher. It took me forever to realize that I can just still outweight somebody even if they're never going to swim. So if you're the thing is that if you have two bulls fighting, the one who's better is going to win almost all the time. Like, you can't push your engagement through against someone who's better at it than you. And in fact, I learned this trying to matador mid-realmers a couple of years ago when I came out to Louis Sahib's coronation, right? I'm fighting all these people who are not impressed with my ability to move in a medium fashion, right? Where I'm from, no one moves like me. They're like, oh, you're so squirrely and crazy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and then everyone here is like, you are sort of normal speed, right? And not fancy at all. And after like the whole day and like getting knocked out of this tournament early, I'm like, I was actually fighting Sivert. It was you. No, he kicked my ass. He was the one. He was the one I realized I was not doing it right. And then after the tournament, I'm fighting Sivert, and and I'm thinking about the whole day because, well, of course I'm thinking in range, blah blah blah, all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the thug. And I was, and a light bulb went off in my head because I've never been the thug. And so sets up like this, and I just crashed down on him, flattened his shield against. I'm like, oh, I can't do what I normally do. It doesn't work against these folks. It doesn't do that. And since then, you watch over and over again. I think it's like a 30-second, not even a class, right? That's it. Like, you should, if you have to realize when you're trying to do X, if that person is better at X than you cannot do X. You can learn from them. You can train. You can, like, it's not, I mean, again, like, we're talking like a tournament situation where you're trying to win the fight. It matters, right? You have to change what you're doing. And that goes back to like the one of the first parts where you have to train yourself to be uncomfortable. Like, you have to have a backup plan.
It's adapting in boxing.
Yeah. Like, and it's never a huge percentage, right? Like, you're still most of your fights, you're going to win doing the stuff you're great at, right? But there's that and one of the things I always thought about when I was fighting, especially when I'm fighting like people just way better than me, like super dukes, right? Is that, and this is sort of like an inverse of engagement, which is that everything you do that increases your percentage a little bit is good. Like, maybe I can only beat Uther 10% of the time, but maybe if I do this, I can beat him 12% of the time. Like, maybe 12% is not enough to notice, but like, you have to be seeking those edges again and again if you're fighting people who are better than you. If you want to upset people, like fighting people who are worse than you, like, whatever, just fight them. Like, you get to let them do something dumb. But there's always a way to like figure out like, everybody has a weakness, even if it's incredibly minor, right? Like, whatever that was the worst. I always tell this story about you. Ron Volder has asthma. That's apparently his weakness, right? Like, I don't know. It doesn't really work. But what was Jade's arrogant. Jade is arrogant. If you can somehow turn his arrogance against him, like, you can get in a couple of wins in there. Uther is aggressive. Like, he's not easy to beat, let me tell you. But like, he does not like standing around and not swinging, right? So if you get him like in a spot where he gets a little impatient, a little bit, like, things will open. Like,